We'll give it a couple seconds and let the full roster appear before we do introductions.
For some reason with my screen showing, I cannot see the chat. So if somebody can field questions if they come in for me.
Yep.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A.
Thank
you. Good morning, everybody. Please get settled. Grab your morning beverage. We'll get started here in about another 30 seconds. If you're having any technical difficulties, speak now or forever hold your peace. Chat them. If you can't hear me, let us know. Well, it looks like now is a good time to start. Welcome back, everybody, to our third installment of the SSIS Mentor Coffee Talk series. I'd like to thank Heide Moris for putting these together, as they contain a lot of information for all of our SSIS mentors out there in the state of Minnesota. We'd like to welcome back Jody McElroy, who is going to be walking us through a presentation today on the Minnesota Assessment of Parenting for Children and Youth, otherwise known as the MAPCY Post Permanency and Reassessment. And then we will have a question and answer session following. Before we get started, if you don't know who I am, my name is Kratt, and I lead up the SSIS training unit here with the Division of Child Safety and Permanency and the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy. And we also have our other team of panelists here, and I'm going to turn it over to Molly to introduce herself, and she'll pass the baton from there.
Hi, good morning. My name is Molly Koehler. I work in the SSIS business operations area as one of two of the fiscal subject matter experts. And I can throw it over to Melissa now, who's the other subject matter expert. You're muted, Melissa.
Great time. And I work next to Molly as the fiscal SME for the operations unit. Glad to be here. Thanks for including it on this. And I will pass the baton to Cynthia. Maybe. We'll go to Heidi. How about that?
That sounds good. Thanks, Melissa. Good morning, everybody. This is Heide Moris. Welcome to this morning's SSIS Coffee Talk. And I just want to give a special thanks and shout out to Eric, our fearless leader, who will be facilitating this morning's session. And also a special thanks to Jody for joining us again to go over the MAPCY Post Permanency area. But anyway, thank you again, and we hope you enjoy this morning's coffee talk. Cynthia, are you ready?
Hi, I think I'm ready. My name is Cynthia Shypulski, and I am the supervisor of the SSIS Business Operations Unit at DHS. And good morning to everybody. Thanks.
I'm going to guess that's my cue. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jody McElroy. I am the agency policy specialist for the MAPCY, which is the assessment tool that we're going to talk about this morning. For those of you who attended last month's coffee talk, this presentation is significantly shorter than what we went through last month. This it's a 15-slide PowerPoint that goes over the post-permanency reassessment process. But touching base on what we talked about last month, there were some questions that came out afterwards that we are going to throw into an SSIS update, which should be coming shortly. But some clarification that we wanted to make regarding SSIS help desk not resetting MAPCYs to draft unless the following conditions are met. So like I said, this will come out in an update, but first condition is if there have been no payments, service arrangements, or eligibility determinations that are linked to that particular MAPCY. That's the first condition. The second condition will be if there is no alternative available. Often the problem associated with the approved MAPCY can be overcome by either completing a revised MAPCY or copying a MAPCY with the incorrect MAPCY and making corrections in that copy document. If you're unsure if it's a viable alternative or how you can use the revise or the copy functions within the MAPCY, by all means, contact the SSIS help desk and they will help you through that. In order to set things back to draft, those will have to go through the policy point as well, in addition to the fiscal subject matter experts, and we'll work together to get things functioning correctly for the MAPCY that you're talking about. So just want to make some clarification on that. So this morning, we're going to talk about the post-permanency reassessment process. And just for a little bit of background, so the MAPCY is the tool that we use to determine the monthly supplemental payments for any of our kids who are in foster care, adoption assistance, or kinship assistance through Northstar. Northstar has the basic benefit, the supplemental payment, and medical assistance. And as I talked earlier, the supplemental payment is determined by the MAPCY. This is just a little bit of background to let you know where we're going. So when a MAPCY is used, which I talked about last month, it's going to be used for any of our children or youth up to the age of 21 who are receiving child welfare services. For those relatives who have taken emergency placement of a child, for foster parents who are licensed by a county, tribe, or a private agency, any of our kids who currently are in a corporate foster care setting, or our extended foster care supervised independent living. But today we're going to focus on those kids who are with adoptive parents, those kids who are under the guardianship of the commissioner, in addition to the relative custodians through the transfer of physical permanent legal custody. So when a child is transitioning from foster care into an adoption or kinship, in Northstar Care, the MAPCY is going to be used. First off, it's important because it's going to help determine the eligibility for ongoing benefits. And if that child is eligible, it's going to determine that monthly supplemental benefit. At the point, excuse me, reassessments cannot be requested or conducted between the time that an adoption or a kinship benefit agreement becomes fully executed. And what that means is that, that the adoptive parent and or the prospective relative custodian has signed that benefit agreement, in addition to one of our eligibility workers here at DHS signing on behalf of the commissioner. So until that's fully signed and the TPLPC or the adoption are finalized, we cannot do a reassessment. The only exception is for those at-risk kids when a disability manifests. So that's adoption only. And if less than 6 months have passed since that, we have the wiggle room in order to do that. So a child finalizes an adoption or a kinship through the TPLPC process, and the family wants to do a reassessment. Okay, so the MAPCY is going to be the tool that we use for that. What the family is going to do is they're going to contact their DHS adoption or kinship worker, which we call their operations worker, and they're going to request a reassessment. It must be 6 months since the last assessment occurred. So let's say the child's last assessment was in February of 2020, the family finalizes today, they can ask for that post-permanency reassessment because it's been 6 months since that assessment was completed. We don't look at the finalization date, okay? So note that. Unless it's an at-risk conversion and that disability has manifested. So same situation, let's say the kiddo's last MAPCY was done in July, they finalized today, that family could ask for a post-permanency reassessment if that disability has manifested. So it's less than that 6-month window. Okay, we'll talk about the at-risk conversions in a minute. In addition, that request must be in writing from the family. Oftentimes they'll call and our workers will ask them, please send it in writing, because we want to have that captured in our system, and that's part of our auditing process and follow through. So what's going to happen at the point the family asks for that post-permanency reassessment? Our DHS worker is going to locate the child on our side of the world in SSIS, and they're going to initiate a reassessment to the agency of financial responsibility. And this is different than what happened pre-Northstar, because what that did then is those requests would go out to the agency where the family now resides. Okay, so the county of residence. So with Northstar, it stays with the financially responsible agency. Key to note, the child must be cleared to Swindex. Each child has a Swindex number that's individual to them, and they have to be cleared to that Swindex system before the reassessment can be initiated. So if the child already exists in Swindex for the post-permanency identity, our DHS worker will clear that post-adoptive identity to the existing Swindex. So let's say County A has this child post-adoption open in their system because let's say the child opened up in Children's Mental Health post-adopt. That agency has created the new child's Swindex number. That's not going to be the same as what we would create on our side. So our worker is going to go look on the worker side of SSIS and see if that child has a Swindex. If they have that, we're going to keep that number. If the post-adoptive identity is not found in Swindex, the child will be cleared on the DHS side of SSIS and a new Swindex number will be created for that child. So the financially responsible agency is required to manage the log for new requests. And how each county or tribal agency does this is a little bit different. Some have a designated post-permanency reassessment. The thing that's tricky about this is that there's no notification that's going to get sent over to somebody in the county or tribal agency. So it's important that each county comes up with a process of who's going to check the post-permanency reassessment log, because it's on you to do that. What our workers will do is they will, at the point we put a child on the post-permanency reassessment log, we will let the last person known to this case on our side of DHS, SSIS, most often it's going to be the adoption worker or the kinship worker. We're going to send them an email and say, hey, we put this child on the post-permanency reassessment log, not knowing for sure if that worker is still responsible for the case. So you need to come up with a system within your agency to do that. So the request to the agency that gets thrown over on the post-permanency reassessment log is going to include both the pre-adoptive, pre-kinship, and the post-adoptive kinship identities and Swindex numbers, and what the current MAPCY level is. So once DHS has initiated post-permanency reassessment, the child with that post-adoptive Swindex number, as was cleared by us, will display on the post-permanency log at the local agency level, okay? This is what you need to do. If the post-adoptive client exists in your system and it has the same Swindex number as what we show on the post-permanency reassessment log, there's going to be a plus sign next to that node, okay? That's going to let you know that things are jiving together, okay? It's going to allow the local agency to expand that person tree for that child. And then within that, you can create the MAPCY. If that post identity does not exist at the local agency and does not have that Swindex number, or it has a different number than what we show on the post-permanency reassessment log, there's not going to be that plus sign. And at that point, you're going to know that you need to clear that child to Swindex. I almost said Windex, that was kind of goofy. Okay. So if there's no Swindex number, the post-adoptive client should be cleared to your Swindex on the post-permanency reassessment log. If there's a Swindex number, but it's different than the one that we show on the post-permanency reassessment log, you're going to need a data fix. And what that's going to do is you're going to need to contact the SSIS help desk, and we're going to have one of our analysts go through to determine which number is going to supersede the other. So the MAPCY should not be completed until the client and SSIS worker and the post-permanency reassessment log match. They need to be the same, because if the MAPCY is completed without a matching Swindex number, the system's not going to recognize that they're the same kiddo, and it's not going to pick up that reassessed level. A lot of the questions that we get within the help desk are, I did the MAPCY, it didn't flip over, the benefit agreement hasn't been amended. What happened? Most often it's because the Swindex numbers don't align. They're not the same, okay? So if the Swindex numbers don't match, this is before you do, you should notice this before you do the MAPCY. You want to send both the Swindex numbers that are on the post permanency reassessment log, in addition to the one that you have in your system. You want to send that to the help desk for a data fix before you create that MAPCY. So based on analysis of the data integrity team that we have here at DHS, they're going to determine which one's going to be the keeper Swindex number. And then they're going to make the appropriate change, whether it's to worker, Swindex, or to our side of SSIS. So once we get all those Swindex numbers hammered out, they're matching, everything's good to go, it's going to allow the worker and SSIS on the worker side to complete the new MAPCY. And what the system's going to do, it's going to automatically compare the results of the original MAPCY to the post-permanency reassessment, okay? In the setup tab, you want to make sure that the workers are picking as their purpose post-permanency reassessment for Northstar Adoption Assistance or Northstar Kinship Assistance. If you choose a different purpose, it's not going to talk to the system. Most often for MAPCYs that we're completing, pre-adoption, pre-kinship is foster care benefit level. You want to make sure that the workers are picking post-permanency reassessment. That's another reason why the systems may not talk to one another. So just be wary of that if your workers come into problems. And you're gonna make sure that you can prove the MAPCY, but if that child is eligible for an extraordinary levels increase, that EL has to be sent over to the state for review and approval before that MAPCY shows in a completed status, which will trigger the change in benefit level on the post-permanency reassessment log. So then we go through is if the results are the same or lower, there's notifications built into SSIS worker. They're available that you can notify the adoptive or the relative custodian of that, okay? Because what's going to happen is there's not going to be an amendment created for that benefit agreement because the level hasn't changed. So within the post-permanency reassessment log, it's going to automatically flip upon approval to change that status to the reassessment is not implemented, okay? So it's the county tribal agency's responsibility to send a notice to the family if the results stay the same or go lower. However, this one's a busy slide, the print's a little. If a higher benefit level is determined and then approved, what's going to happen again is SSIS is going to automatically send a notification to the DHS side of the world saying, hey, the MAPCY's been completed and the level has gone higher, okay? The financial responsible agency must send a copy of that MAPCY rating report to the DHS operations, adoption assistance, kinship assistance worker, because we need that in order to validate that the MAPCY's been completed and approved before we can complete the amendment to the benefit agreement. DHS is going to review the MAPCY rating report, make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, things are completed within the text boxes that we talked about last month, in addition to make sure that the status is fully approved, and especially if there's an extraordinary level that has come over. DHS is then going to create and send out an amendment to the adoptive or the relative custodian for the family to sign. What's also going to happen for those at-risk conversion adoption assistance cases, they will also be sending that, they're going to send that amendment through the county tribal agency first for their signature, and then they're going to help facilitate the signage of that, the amendment with the adoptive the adoptive family, excuse me, for them to sign. And then that's going to come back to the DHS. And what we're going to do at that is then we're going to sign it as a designee of the commissioner. And then that's going to become the new effective date of the benefit agreement. So even if the MAPCY shows an effective date of March 1st of 20, if we don't get that signed benefit agreement amendment to us and our worker doesn't sign it till today, September 29th is going to be the new effective date of that benefit agreement. Okay, so note that. So time is of the essence when we get these requests going. So once it's signed and returned, DHS will sign our amendment, which I just talked about. We're going to set up the new payment and issue any back payments if necessary. And then we're going to change the status of the post-permanency reassessment log to the amendment is completed. Once we do that status change, that's also going to reflect on the worker side of SSIS within that post-permanency reassessment log. The new rates, like I said, are going to go into effect the date that our worker signs the amendment. This is just a screenshot of what the post-permanency reassessment log looks like. There's different things within the grid that you can change, as far as viewing, but it's going to show you, especially upon approval, what the status is going to be. In this case, the status is MAPCY completed. So what that means is that that benefit level went up, and we're going to create that amendment, and we're going to send that out to the family. And that was super simple, right? So, like I said before, the most important slide in my presentation is my contact information. So if you have any questions as it relates to this process or anything MAPCY related, by all means, give me a call. We can chat. I can look into specifics of a case and whatnot. So I guess I'll open it now to questions.
Hey, Jody, there's a question in the question and answer box from Laura. I have a kid in a pre-adoptive placement. DHS just approved the NAAED, and I have created a NAABA. It is now waiting to be signed by all parties. However, child's MAPCY was last done on October 1st of 2019 and needs to be updated again for October 1st, 2020. Do I update MAPCY and then update the NAABA again before acquiring signatures?
What I would recommend you doing is get in touch with your records and eligibility worker at DHS, and you should ask he or she to inactivate that eligibility determination. Okay. Okay, there's a couple different things you can do. There is going to be, if the eligibility determination is signed before October 1st, which could happen, we've got just a couple days, then we're going to just hold on to that, okay? And that's going to ride through. If you said, I think she said that the eligibility determination's already been submitted, right? Yeah, because we've done the benefit agreement.
Mm-hmm.
If there's been significant changes, contact your records and eligibility worker, and he or she can inactivate that, and we can move forward. Potentially, it could delay finalization because you have to have all that stuff done before. So this one, since it's right on the cusp of needing a new one, for foster care, they don't need a new one as far as it relates fiscally. But if you're looking to set your child up better for permanency, you may want to get a hold of your records and eligibility worker and have them inactivate it. And then you can go through the whole ED process again. Does that make sense, Laura?
She says yes, thank you.
Good, thanks. Anything else out there?
What is the DHS adoption assistance worker contact information?
For post finalization, I can send that list out because we divide it by family name, and we've got 5 workers. So without knowing the last name of the family, can't really give you the contact information. But I can send that through Eric and Heide and their crew, and we can get that to you.
Holy cow, here we go.
Oh man.
Tana, where do you find the post-permanency reassessment log?
It is in, oh, I don't have, do I have my SSA? Okay, pardon me.
This is Molly. I just looked in SSIS. It's under searches
Searches and logs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I can share my screen if you want me to and bring up
That would be great.
SSIS.
Suppose I need to stop sharing mine.
I think I can override yours, so.
Oh, you got the power. Sweet.
Apparently. Give me 1 second here. So let me know. Can you see my screen, Jody? Or any of my other panelists?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
I can.
searches and logs right here. And you have the post permanency reassessment log about halfway down.
No, I lost my Zoom.
I'll stop sharing. Maybe that'll help.
Oh, I'm back.
Carrie asked, please give me more guidance with finding the post permanency reassessment log.
So within the top ribbon of your
Yeah.
SSIS worker, searches logs, where you find a plethora of things. You should be able
And
to.
folks, if they don't have that, they might need to have they might need to change that in their role. I can't, so that they have access to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you can't see that in SSIS, Carrie, I would talk to whomever sets up the admin privileges for you in SSIS to gauge whether or not you need access for that post-permanency reassessment log, and then they could assign that to you. The next question, can copies of the slides be sent? And usually we're happy to send out.
Yeah, I think Heidi sent them previously. I think she sent them beginning of this week, if not tail end of last. And actually, I think what we should do is we should resend it out because I did make a couple minor edits this morning. So Heidi, if you could resend that out, that'd be
We can
fabulous.
put them all
Thank
in the
you.
next SSIS update as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I did send the original out last week, but I would gladly send everybody a newly updated copy this morning. So I'll get that out as soon as we've finished.
Brian asks, if a caregiver opts not to do a reassessment following conversation, how do you remove them from the log?
My recommendation to you, if they initiated the post-permanency reassessment and now they're withdrawing, basically, get that in writing from the provider or from the adoptive parent or the relative custodian. And what you can do with that is then email that to the DHS operations worker and we can cancel the reassessment. That's going to be the easiest way to do that, but we do want that in writing.
Okay. Lori asks, why would you want incorrect MAPCYs in SSIS if they can be deleted or changed without payment, etc.? Are the Swindex fixes similar to the PMI fixes?
So I'm happy to answer those. So I will say this, this is really a data integrity issue. We don't want ever as a system to remove data or information unless it's absolutely necessary. I think that this is, it may be something that agencies don't like to have additional records displaying, but we really want to maintain a record and don't want to be removing things that there are other ways for us to do that work. So I know that maybe doesn't satisfy the question, but that's the answer. And what was the second question, Eric?
Sorry, it helps if I unmute. Are the Swindex fixes similar to the PMI fixes?
Okay, so all right, thanks for that question, Lori. I think kind of what you're asking is, will it ever happen? maybe because the PMI fixes are a really long, lengthy process involving other people. No, the answer is that's not something that is similar. We don't have, multiple other departments and that have to be involved on those. It's really something that can be done quick if that is the correct solution for the issue. And that's something that we work closely with the folks in the adoptions area and help desk and folks in Minute. We do those every day.
And can I add something to Cynthia's first part of that answer regarding the data integrity? What you can always do to help kind of clear things up is within the comment section of that MAPCY that you were hoping could be deleted or set back to draft or whatever, you can put a note in that comments section of that particular MAPCY saying, this was not used for payment, this was done in error or something like that, just so if you need a tickler down the line of why this one's floating out there, you can make note of that within the actual tool.
All right, thanks, Cynthia and Jody. The next question comes from Jenny. I don't believe everyone has access to the post. I guess it's not a question, it's more of a statement. I don't believe everyone has access to the post permanency assessment log. You have to be granted access. Okay, thank you, Jenny. And then Kelly asks, how often should you check the post permanency reassessment log? As mentor, I check once a month. I want to be sure that this is okay, or if I should be checking more often.
Well, I think that kind of depends. Some of our more rural county tribal agencies who don't have a lot of kids who have finalized tend not to have many on the post permanency reassessment log. So once a month might be fine for that. For some of our metro counties who have many more children who have finalized an adoption or a kinship, we tend to have more of those kiddos on the post permanency reassessment log, so you'd want to check them more regularly. Depending on how your agency is reviewing these, you can also reach out to the adoption assistance workers on our side of DHS to possibly come up with a process. Because like I say, some of our county and tribal agencies have never even had one. So you don't need to be checking it daily, just waiting. But once a month, we just want to make sure that we get those done timely. And at the point the family asks for a reassessment, they are to be completed within 30 days, unless there's extenuating circumstances. So once a month minimum, more often if you have the ability to do that.
This is Molly. There's a question in the chat and I'm not real sure. It's from Sarah. And she just asked, does this include legacy post permanency reassessments?
This process does not. That process follows the legacy, which I did not include in this because I'm not as well versed in it. If it's a legacy finalized adoption, you would contact, the family would still contact the adoption assistance worker, but there's additional documentation and things that need to be sent to DHS operations that would warrant that request. I can't speak 100% into what that entails, but the special needs assessment would need to be completed, and then that would be sent over to our workers and how they actually change that benefit. It's not electronic, it's a manual process compared to the MAPCY. So work with your adoption assistance operations worker and they can help hammer that out with you regarding the process. Sorry, I'm not that helpful on that one.
It looks like our Q&A well has dried up. Anybody have any other burning questions?
like I said earlier, always feel free to reach out to me via email or call. I got this cool Jabber software, so I can actually take phone calls now, which is nice. So reach out to me if you have questions as it relates to either the MAPCY or the post-permanency process, and I will be here.
Catherine wants to know if they'll be able to find this recording somewhere to share with fellow coworkers. Heidi, I don't know if you want to answer that. I believe we are trying to work on a process where we have our recordings made accessible. And I believe Heidi's working on that right now.
Yep, we do have a few of the videos actually ready to go. Unfortunately, because of the closed captioning, you know, we want to make everything accessible. So instead of receiving the actual video, anybody who will need captioning type services will end up receiving it in a transcript. But otherwise, yes, everything is pretty much ready to go and be posted, but I'm not sure how long it will take for us to be able to get it on the SSIS resources page. But it should be very soon.
Well, as always, we appreciate your attendance in the SSIS Mentor Coffee Talk. We enjoy your questions and we value this style of learning. It provides people with just-in-time learning advantages. I'd like to thank Heidi for putting these together and coordinating them. It's quite the effort, and doing the post work that she does, the post-production work on these that she does after we complete them. I want to thank you, Jody, for joining us the last two sessions regarding the MAPCY. I know that the help desk gets flooded with questions frequently regarding the MAPCY, so hopefully some of these presentations have answered your questions out there. We'd like you to join us for our next Coffee Talk session, which will be on October 20th at 9 a.m. And we will be talking about pre and post adoption, SSIS functionality and policy. And Heidi is diligently working on coordinating that right now, and we'll send out the invitation for that if she hasn't already sent it out. And again, that is for October 20th. Thank you, Cynthia, Molly, and Melissa for joining us as well and attending to the chat and answering questions as they arise. Everybody have a great day, and we will see you on October 20th.
Great job, Eric. Thanks, everyone.